With the future in the hands of our youth, there are many things that we can do as a community to provide them with the tools they need to create an even better world than the one we live in now. What exactly is that though? First, we start by addressing mental illness. Mental illnesses challenge our children in everything, making the ability for them to live a better life much harder than it should be. With rising rates of depression and anxiety among adolescents in Albuquerque, it is important that we help them overcome this challenge. They are your children, your friends, and your future. Why shouldn't you give them the best? In Albuquerque, we are facing rising rates of mental illness within our communities every day. As someone who's had their fair share of run-ins with mental illness, whether it's personal or with friends or family, that statistic is not a pretty sight. Mental illness occurs among 74,000 people older than the age of 12 in Albuquerque. To narrow that number down even further, at least 16,000 adolescents were diagnosed with a mental illness, according to a study in 2013. With the World Health Organization calling depression as one of the largest contributors to disability among young, and anxiety is the sixth largest, the chances of a young person in ABQ without having faced at least one of these mental illnesses is slim to none. Isn't that upsetting? But what exactly causes these rates to soar? Home life, poverty, and school can play a major role in a growing teen's life. Saying it's just hormones adds to a stigma surrounding mental health that have been shown to lead to a life of drug abuse, unemployment, and trauma. The way I plan to solve such a big problem consists of three main steps. My first step is to revise all APS curriculums in school to include a deeper analysis and study of mental health. Each school can individually revise their own curriculums or purchase an already built curriculum package. However, forming it yourself leads to a better specialization to our ABQ students. My next step is to add psychologists to all APS schools. Of course, a significant amount of money would be needed to support such a highly paid individual, but having someone there for all APS students to talk to is much more important than the high cost. After all, studies done by the New Mexico Indicator-Based Information System show that students who talked to a professional during the day had a much better improvement rate than those who didn't. Finally, the last step in helping to fight mental illness is to create an app. Creating a platform like this within schools will help students talk about problems, make appointments with psychologists, or even learn about what's affecting them. This app could function as a bridge between teachers, students, parents, and psychologists, making it extremely valuable in content and relief. My idea also consists of students designing the app themselves, because an app made by students for students shows most promise and likability among adolescents. The overall benefits of my idea definitely outweigh any negatives. While the total cost of spending would be somewhere around $15 million, I believe this money would be going somewhere worthwhile, our future. First, we would reallocate the funds previously taken away from APS in 2020. To cover the cost of psychologists, we need to understand that the base pay is about $75,000 to $120,000 a year. If APS has a total of 144 schools, then that adds up to an amount of at least $11,300,000. About $3.5 million will be left over for APS to budget and to give to schools as they see fit, giving education an extra boost that could hopefully promote a better education and even move New Mexico up the national rankings of education as well. Curriculum plans, while costing about $300 to $400 a day or $4,000 a week, are free to revise if each school does it themselves, saving a large amount of money to be used elsewhere. Lastly, I suggest using about $500 or so as prize money to inspire participation in creating the app. Mental illness is a challenge we face every day in Albuquerque. From our elders to our youth, it's important to start at the beginning of people's lives to change such high rates of depression and anxiety. With reformed curriculums, psychologists, and an app to connect all types of people, I believe that we can take a positive step forward in finding a solution. Today, we may find a high population of mentally ill people, but tomorrow we could create a new Albuquerque, one much more successful and beautiful than ever before.